Hello everyone, we are Group 8 and we will be discussing the topic entitled Greece, the Cradle of Democracy. So to start, I would like to introduce myself. I am Hazel Dihidia and I will be focusing on what, why, and how, or basically the history that allowed us to say that Greece is indeed the cradle of democracy. It will be followed by my other groupmates Kathleen K. Castillo and Nicole Jane Almodal. So how do we say if the state is indeed considered as a democratic state? I mean, we had a lot of discussions that we had in the previous meeting and as well as the other subjects that actually focused on the democratic and the non-democratic countries, as well as their practices, the practices that they do for them to considered as one. So with those discussion, we have already know some of the vague definition of democracy. That of the word or the term democracy comes from the Greek word, which is made up of two shorter words, which is the demos and the kratos. Demos means the entire citizenry of a certain state, and kratos means the power or rule. So this means that the democracy is a system of government in which people have the power to deliberate and elect the representative to govern them. And some people think that democratic is a government by the people, especially it is in connection with the rule of the majority, a government in which the supreme power is vested in the people and exercised by them directly or indirectly through a system of representation, usually involving periodically held free election. And so, just like in our country, in the Philippines, the Filipinos have the power to elect the government officials who will govern us with the branch of the branches of the government separately. And why do we have this democracy? Of course, people just like us want to have a voice and the power to choose who will govern them and protect the rights that they have, so do and actually do the civic obligations and responsibilities that they have. However, we may ask, where is this democracy comes from? Kasi with all the definitions that I have provided, and that came from the political scientists, political theorists, and other scholars, and even written in the book, we can define democracy, but not know the context to its occurrence. This discussion will be done in order for us to fully understand the importance of something in our lives. We have to actually know where it came from and why is it there. Why are we experiencing this democracy that we have today? Therefore, we may ask, where did democracy come from? Does this democracy that we have today already existed before, or is it an evolved version? So studying such would lead us to conclusion with the definition that I have given a while ago with regards to democracy. Sabi ko, it is the governance that people has the power that includes voting of such representatives, and it is important to actually know if that is the case. Then before na people have the power to elect and be involved in the government. And so this discussion actually focuses on the what and the who and why. Thus the democracy that we have already evolved to what we have today. The democracy that we have that includes the voting, that includes the election of those who will represent us. So we will center on the history and wherein this democracy that we have today evolved or came from. So to answer the question on the screen, although nobody invented the form of the democracy we have today, the foundation of it were laid in the classical period and just evolved across in the century of its existence. So with all of this, how can we identify if Greece is indeed the cradle of democracy, or is Greece really is where the cradle of democracy took place? So to scale down the words presented on the screen, cradle of democracy. Cradle is that of the infant's bed or crib, or yung nilalagyan ng bata, as you can see in I will flash this on the screen. And ayan, just like that. It is this word cradle is usually used when we talk about something that is being born. Kasi just like the bata, parang it is the beginning. It symbolizes the beginning of something. So the cradle of democracy therefore means simply that democracy was born in that particular area. So this area that we are talking about is the ancient Greece in the classical period. Democracy in ancient Greece served as one of the first form of self-rule government in the ancient world. The system and ideas employed by these ancient Greeks have profound influences on how the democracy developed and its impact on the formation of U.S. or the United States government. And actually, even today, no, it remains an important reference to the democracy to us. Democracy was only one of the several distinct forms of government that Greeks and Romans had attempted throughout the history. This history was then studied by a lot of scholars, political thinkers, scientists, and others who contributed to what I will be discussing today. But before I will tell you the history of how people, the scholars, the thinkers had studied, I will be showing you the continent of Europe wherein Greece is located. As you can see in the screen, there is Europe. Zooming in, you can see the Greece as a country, and a bit closer, here is the Athens and Rome. So these two Asian countries, we will incorporate this to our discussion. Athens is the capital of Greece and is a Greek city-state, and it is similar to Rome. And in this discussion, these two will be used. So then again, to continue my discussion about the history of how democracy in Greece actually is considered as the start of the said governance. As I have said a while ago, the democracy has something to do with the rule by the people, and actually this rule by the people or the direct democracy started 2,500 years ago. I will be flashing it on the screen. So here the history. The rule by the people actually started in 2,500 years ago. It is started because the leaders of Athens, or yung the Greek city-state na Athens, or yung capital of the Greece, decided to try something different. And actually, sabi ko nga, yung democracy is actually one of the several things na an experiment ng Greece. And that year, 2,500 years ago, they want to try again something different, and that is yung sinabi ko na rule by the people or yung direct democracy. So they started as a direct democracy. That time when they thought na maganda yun, the participation of the citizen in the country was required and is considered as their civic responsibilities to able to be involved in the governmental actions. Although the power during that time resides in the people, they had assembly, courts, and council. The assembly is the one who creates the law and direct foreign policy. Also, they have the council that oversaw the actions of the government, and courts acted as the police, judges, and jury. And that is will be discussed by my other group mates. There are certain names they call those three, and it will be discussed. And actually, these three is somewhat similar to us today, but still has its difference. Yung sinabi ko, the assembly can be a version of legislative branch of the government, because when it comes to the role or the responsibility of the assembly, the assembly and the legislative branch of the government both has the role on making laws. However, syempre, we'd want today as better kasi it has an evolving features that are actually different or distinctive from that during that particular time. So the second is the courts. The courts during that time are somewhat similar din sa atin today. Although we call it as a judicial branch, which does not have the police, but only the judges are included. And ang council naman can be seen to have similarities with the other branches of the government when it comes to the purpose or the role. Kasi dito makikita natin that the council perform its role of overseeing the actions of the government. And today actually we can see that this feature of democracy evolved from checks and balances, which is also principle of democracy, wherein every branches of the government touch over the other para there is no over abusing of power. So yun, from the role of assembly, courts, and council, which we consider as parang direct democracy kasi people are those who actively participate in the government. We can then move on to the qualification of the citizens. Kasi, as I've mentioned, the citizens are the ones who actively participate in the actions of the government. However, how do we consider these citizens who will participate? Hindi kasi noon hindi lahat ng tao sa Athens are considered as citizens. Kasi during that time, the citizens of the city are only the ones who can be considered as part of the demos or the government, particularly those the 18 years old and above. So if you are a child, you are a female, you are not considered as a citizen or as a part of the government, and you cannot participate in the actions of the government. But still, the government is not fully seen as actually democratic, kahit democratic naman talaga sila. Kasi one rule is that if they do not fulfill their duty, they would be fined and sometimes marked with red paint. Parang still they are hindered by that and considered it as more than the civic duties. So ayun nga, during that time, during that 2,500 years ago, the citizens are the ones who are may hawak or had a say in all the decisions of the government actions. However, this arrangement lasted for only 200 years. And it worked lang naman doon sa Athens because they have few citizens. So, sa ibang maraming citizen, hindi siya nag-work. So, like Rome, yun nga, sa pinakita ko kanina sa map, I will flash it again on screen. Mas malaki yung Rome. Sa Athens, meron silang 28.96 kilometers squared and sa Rome has 1,285 kilometers squared. So, ang laki talaga ng difference between the two. And the bigger the territory, the higher syempre the population. This is simply because Athens, with small population and has the direct democracy, needed close cooperation and syempre mahirap siya if madami. So another country like Rome with larger territory and of course more population has to incorporate another kind of government without losing the democracy that they have. This is because even if the leaders of Rome wanted to still have the democracy of having giving all the citizens that the rights in participating in the government, still they knew na hindi iyon kaya ng every citizens, na hindi kaya mabigyan ng rights ng every citizens to actually be involved in the actions of the government kasi marami sila. So in the year 503 BCE, there is then the evolving democracy in relation to republic. The republic has its different approach when it comes to acknowledging the power of the people. This is because in the republic, the people will actually still has the power, but these powers is used to elect the representative that will govern them. So sa direct democracy, ang lahat ng tao na kino-consider as citizen, only the male and 18 years above, yung mga citizens, they are the ones who participate in the actions of the government. And in the republic, people will elect those representatives who will govern them. So ayun nga, the direct democracy or yung pure democracy is ang mga tao are the ones who decides on the policy initiatives without elected representative as proxies or who will represent them. However, nung di na kinaya ng close participation or ng close participation with the people sa direct democracy, nagkaroon na ng republic which allowed people to vote the representative, and that is actually one of the development when it comes to the democracy. And just like in our current world, this representative are responsible and must be accountable to their actions as people put their trust in them. Still, makikita pa rin natin dito ang democracy. Kasi although people do not have the role, the civic duties to firsthand to experience those actively participating in the government, still there is the power. The power still resides from the people and will be given to those who will govern them. How basically the power is, yun nga, nasa tao pa rin. They have the power to choose who will govern them, and this power still resides from them. And this arrangement in Roman Republic lasted for only 500 years. However, Greeks' experiment on democracy and the Roman Republic still has its impact on the current world, especially when it comes to the governance. It was even in America that is seen to have a huge population for them to actually function as a direct democracy. So basically, they then adopted the final product, which is the representative democracy. This representative democracy was established by the founding fathers in that country in America. This form of government is adopted in the Philippines as well, basically because our governance or our government was and constitution was modeled on the US system, which has the representative democracy as well, with all the definition, with all the history and what, why, and how that I have given to you. These actually signify that the cradle of democracy that had happened in Greece does not only influence the Western countries, kasi ngayon these influences the Western countries and the Philippines and other countries and parts of the globe as well. So indeed, with all of this, one of the first type of the self-rule government in the ancient world was democracy in ancient Greece. The ancient Greek system and idea had a significant impact on the development of democracy and the construction of the United States government, and gradually influenced the people around the world. Therefore, the experiment of the Greeks had influenced us, but still, it continuously evolved through time. That will be the end of my discussion. I hope you have learned something from today. Thank you for listening. I am Hazel Dihidia, signing off.